Have you ever had this quiet, kind of aching sense that you're just operating on a completely different frequency than everyone else? Like, imagine everyone around you is perfectly tuned into this one radio station, and you're out there picking up a completely different signal that literally nobody else can hear. Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into some incredibly fascinating psychological research to unpack exactly why that feeling, it's not a flaw. Actually, it's the ultimate hallmark of an exceptionally different mind.
So, have you ever felt like you're on a different frequency? Honestly, so many people quietly ask themselves this every single day. You might be wondering why totally normal conversations just feel hollow to you, or why you're completely exhausted by things that seem to pump everyone else up. Well, here's what I really want you to hear right out of the gate. That feeling is not loneliness, it's not depression, and it absolutely 100% isn't you being broken. As we're going to see as we go through this explainer, this is concrete psychological data pointing to a highly unique, deeply complex mind. So let's jump straight into Section 1, the deep processing engine, and take a look at how your brain actually manages energy and information. You know how society absolutely loves to throw around the word antisocial whenever you just need to disappear into a quiet room or, let's be real, hide in the bathroom for 10 minutes during a party? Well, neuroscientists actually call this low stimulation recovery. See, your brain is constantly running these incredibly expensive background processes. We're talking nonstop pattern recognition, emotional analysis, predictive modeling of social dynamics. That literally burns physical energy. It's wild. You don't actually dislike people. You just have this strict neurological requirement to recharge your batteries after doing all of that invisible, heavy lifting. And hey, that exhausting background processing, it also totally explains why people are constantly telling you that you're overthinking and that you should just, let it go. But in psychology, this is known as a high need for cognitive closure. Your inability to just keep things shallow isn't anxiety. It's this documented psychological drive where your mind just flat out refuses to accept incomplete information. Like when someone gives a basic answer, most folks are totally satisfied. But for you, that single answer just kicked open the door to 10 brand new questions. Now, let's be honest. This deep processing engine definitely comes with a real cost. We're talking chronic mental exhaustion from this automatic, relentless need to constantly ask why. You literally can't turn it off. But here is exactly why this matters for you. This very same engine allows you to spot details that literally everyone else just walks right past. It is the absolute foundation, the core engine, for every single genuine insight and creative breakthrough you will ever have. And all of that deep processing, it leads directly into what's called integrative complexity. You've probably noticed your interests don't really stay in one lane, right? One day you're obsessed with psychology, then it's quantum physics, then art history, then human behavior. To the outside world, yeah, you might seem a little unfocused. But you aren't just hoarding random trivia. You are building this massive, interconnected web of understanding. You're taking ideas from completely different fields and stitching them together into this huge, cohesive map of reality. It's like a giant puzzle, and you're the only one who sees the whole picture. Which brings us to Section 2, navigating social complexities, and exactly why you can feel completely isolated even when you're standing in a crowded room. Have you ever noticed that when chaos breaks out, you tend to go totally quiet? People might slap a label on you, calling you cold or distant or unfeeling. But what they are actually witnessing is something called high distress tolerance. And this is an incredibly rare capacity. You aren't avoiding emotion at all. Your nervous system has just figured out how to sit with intense, overwhelming emotions without being completely hijacked or destroyed by them. You process first, and then you react later. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Have you literally always felt older than your peers? Like, even as a kid, while everyone else was busy eating paste or trying to figure out playground politics, you were sitting there wrestling with massive questions about meaning, mortality, and purpose. This is a real thing called precocious development. It's not just that you were a smart kid. It's a remarkably faster than average development of existential awareness. And honestly, it causes a very specific kind of isolation because you've essentially spent your whole life quietly waiting for the rest of the world to just catch up. And then there's the burden of advanced social processing. Because you have such high effective empathy, your brain is just constantly, instantly downloading massive amounts of nonverbal data. Microexpressions, slight shifts in someone's voice, the hidden tension in a room, you catch all of it. Because of this, small talk isn't just boring to you, is it? It's genuinely physically uncomfortable. You have a literal biological drive for conversational depth. And those shallow interactions, they just actively drain your battery. There's a quote that really hits the nail on the head here. You cannot unknow what you know. You cannot unsee what you have seen. Because you instantly read a room and you see right beneath people's surfaces, it can create this profound sense of loneliness. You end up understanding others way more accurately than they understand themselves, which creates this bizarre one-sided intimacy. You see them so clearly, but man, it is incredibly rare to find someone who can truly see you back.
And that perfectly tees up a concept called existential isolation. If you've always felt like you're standing just slightly outside of every room you enter, even with groups you supposedly belong to, listen to me. It is not a pathology. It's actually an inherent feature of having a highly individuated consciousness. It simply means that your inner world is so complex and so clearly defined that finding a perfect mirror in someone else is just super rare. You aren't broken. You are just precisely formed. And precision, by definition, doesn't fit everywhere.
Okay, let's move into Section 3, Intrinsic Motivation and Growth, and explore the unseen drive behind your ambition. I bet at some point you've been called lazy, or maybe someone told you that you just don't apply yourself. But the real story? Your brain is automatically running this rigorous cost-benefit filtering calculation before it invests even a drop of your finite energy. If a certain outcome doesn't align with your deeply internal value system, your brain simply refuses to engage. So no, you aren't passive, you just literally cannot be bribed or pressured into caring about things that lack genuine meaning to you.
The thing is, you do have deep ambition, but it's almost entirely internal. And that can lead to what psychologists refer to as the achievement capability gap. This is that persistent, quiet grief you might feel over your unlived potential. It's this steady, nagging awareness of the gap between the incredible version of yourself you carry in your mind and where you actually are right now in reality. You refuse to settle, and that awareness, it's a very real, very valid form of quiet suffering.
But let's look at how you handle setbacks, because this is fascinating. Most people tie failure directly to their identity, right? Every mistake feels like a massive personal threat. But for an exceptionally different mind like yours, failure is just information. It's just neutral data about what happened. Treating mistakes as productive feedback instead of some permanent, crushing judgment is a massive psychological advantage. It literally rapid-fires your ability to learn and adapt.
And that huge learning advantage is fueled by something called epistemic curiosity. Basically, you have this irresistible motivation to close gaps in your understanding. You prioritize finding the actual truth way over protecting your ego. Like you are totally fine with auditing your old beliefs and changing your mind the second you're presented with new evidence, simply because you crave accuracy so much more than the cheap comfort of just being right at a dinner party.
This brings us to our final part, Section 4, Embracing Your Design. It's time we talk about stopping the apologies and finally living authentically. So, to really embrace your design, there are a few things you have to do. First, you've got to build some serious cognitive discipline by fiercely protecting your attention from all the temporary noise out there. Second, you have to stop performing normalcy for rooms that were never built for you in the first place. Third, drop the comparisons. Start competing only with your own potential. And finally, you have to choose authenticity over approval, even when it costs you that external acceptance.
Because here is the ultimate paradigm shift. The main thing I want you to take away from this explainer. What they called a flaw in your design actually was the design. Society, schools, your past workplaces, they completely misunderstood your traits. But you no longer have to misunderstand yourself. You really don't need to spend one more ounce of your energy apologizing for how you naturally process the world.
I love this thought. History rarely remembers the people who spent their lives trying to fit in. Thinking independently, and enduring the loneliness that sometimes comes along with it, that is exactly the recipe that builds a life of real wisdom, deep character, and genuine significance. Playing it safe and conforming, that could never offer you that kind of depth.
So going forward, instead of asking yourself, ugh, why am I so different? I want you to ask, what is this difference trying to teach me? Stop trying to solve your uniqueness like it's some sort of problem to fix, and start developing it as your absolute greatest strength. Your mind was designed differently for a reason. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Now go out there and see what that beautiful mind of yours can really do.